see. Yeah, so let's dig a bit deeper into this question on the potential effects of gray seal predation on pike. It's a tricky one to answer, but we did a study, or I should say that Rebecca Svensson did a study for her master's thesis last year on this topic. She's on maternity leave now, so I'm doing the presentation instead of her. I think she might be listening. I hope so. As you might all know, we had sharp declines in gray seal populations in the early 1900s. These declines continued up until the 70s, 80s, and the declines were due to first hunting and later on to reproduction disturbance from toxic substances. But after the 80s, we've seen a strong increase in the gray seal population in the Baltic. And the growth rate is currently, and has been for a long time, around 5% per year. As you can see here in the graph, we're now up at the total population of seals of around 40,000 individuals. Or I should say that these are counted seals. The repopulation is probably some 20 or 30% larger than the counted ones. So probably we have more than 50,000 seals in the Baltic right now. The highest densities of seals are found in this reddish area, stretching from the archipelago sea in Finland over the Åland Islands, over the Stockholm archipelago, and down along the Swedish coast. A clear pattern that we've seen the last few years is that we have the strongest increase in densities occurs in the southern parts of the Baltic Sea. So, for example, at the south coast of Sweden, we've had really strong increases in gray seal abundances the last few years. Another pattern we see with the increase in population sizes is that we see a change in distribution across an archipelago gradient. So previously, like in the early 90s, almost all sightings of seals were made in the outermost parts of the archipelago. This graph is from citizen science information from Sweden, where people have reported sightings of seals. And back in the 90s, most of the seals were really found close to the open sea. So this is from the Stockholm archipelago. But then, as the population increases, more and more sightings are done closer to the mainland. Probably partly because of just an expansion of the population or an increase in population size, but we also believe then that there is a behavioral change here. So the seals get less and less timid, and nowadays you can even find seals like in the middle of the Stockholm, for example. So this is right outside the castle in the center of Stockholm. Last summer, I think this seal was found resting here on a small rock. And this also means that today seals are often found in the inner parts of the archipelago, and in the springtime also in the major pike spawning areas. So we have a strong spatial overlap today between seals and pike. Some of you might have missed the presentation I gave earlier today, but this is from the Stockholm archipelago, where we have indications of seal removing a lot of pike currently. We have a strong change over time, and we also have a really large span in the estimates here because we have so uncertain diet information. So what Rebecca set out to do in her master's thesis was two things, or basically it was trying to answer the question whether seal predation affects population sizes. And there were two parts in this study. First of all, Rebecca quantified the diet of gray seal inside the archipelago zone, because the previous data is mostly from outer parts of the outmost part of the archipelago, and here we really try to find diet information from inside the archipelago closer to the mainland. And second, Rebecca investigated the relationship between pike abundance and size and seal density in different areas along the Swedish coast. So here in this graph, you can see what Rebecca was looking for inside the coast. It's difficult to get diet information from seals. Most of the information comes from dead seals, but here we were aiming for this brown gold you can see here on this small scary seal scats. So we visited a number of these known hole-out sites inside the Stockholm archipelago several times, and found scats on a few of them, the areas with green dots here. So you get out on a calm day and you collect these cats with a spoon, collect them in plastic bags, and then in the laboratory you wash them, rinse them, and identify the hard parts. A lot of the hard parts found are otoliths, ear stones, and you can use this to identify not only the species of the fish, but also the sizes of the fish that have been consumed. So we had 52 fecal samples. We also had a few stomachs from, again, inside or the inner parts of the archipelago from 2016 to 20. And the results showed, yes, gray seal, they seem to include a lot of pike in the diet. So pike actually was the third most common prey species in the diet, and constituted 20% of the diet by weight in this study. Perch dominated, which might be interesting for some of you to see as well, constituted half of the diet of gray seal, and then herring. Compared to samples from closer to the open sea, this differs quite a lot, since in most previous studies herring has been constituting somewhere around 80% of the diet in total. Looking at the length distribution of the pike in the diet, the mean size was 41 centimeters, and the largest individual, or the otoliths, or the largest individual was from a pike that was 73 centimeters. Here I just want to point out that we probably have some underestimate of the predation on large pike here, because there are numerous observations of carcasses of large pike that have been eaten by seal, and they consistently leave the head uneaten from these large individuals, meaning that we don't. There are simply are no otoliths from some of these larger pike that have been eaten. Right. Then, and you actually saw basically the same data in Jens Olsson's presentation in the morning. So we have gillnet monitoring data from a number of areas along the Swedish central Baltic coast. Here we divided the catches into smaller pike below 40 centimeters and larger pike above 40 centimeters. And you can see that we have declines, overall declines here in all areas and both size classes apart from larger pike in the southernmost area in Blekinge County, where we don't see any declines yet in the large individuals. But you should also note that we have a really strong decline in the juveniles, the catches of juveniles. So we have indication of changes in the pike population and the size structure there. Right, and then to the seal abundance in the same counties along the coast. We have increases in all areas. We have the largest density of grey seals in the county of Södermanland, followed by the county of Stockholm, and currently also the county of Östergötland, and that is the three northernmost counties in this study. And the next thing we did was that we related county by county, related pike catches in the gillnets to the densities of seals. And this is the pattern that appears. So we did this in a GLM. And you see that for there was a negative relationship in all areas and size classes, again apart from larger pike in the county of Blekinge. And in most areas, the decline seems to be occurring quite consistently at the same seal densities. See that here in the small pike, and to some extent also in the large pike. But one area is an exception here, and that would be the county of Kalmar, the red dots, where you see that we have the same pattern of declines, but occurring at a much lower densities of grey seal. Okay, Rebecca also made an attempt to look into the correlation between grey seal abundance and catches of large pike from fishing tournaments. So we managed to get time series data from a few competitions in some of these counties. The longest time series is from a competition in the Stockholm archipelago, and that's actually the only area where we have see a strong negative development of the size of the largest pike caught in the competition. Thanks, Petter. Similarly, we made a GLM here as well. And again, there was a strong interaction in this GLM, so we did an area-wise analysis. In that study, or in those analyses, we didn't find any other pattern than in the longest time series in the county of Stockholm, where we have a negative correlation. Right. So to summarize, the proportion of pike in the grey seal diet is high. It's much higher when you get samples from inside the archipelago compared to samples from the outer parts, up to 20% in this study. We also see declines in Pike CPUE in gillnet monitoring data along the coast, and in the competition data from the Stockholm archipelago, where we had the longest time series, but not from the other areas. We have a negative local scale correlation between seal density and Pike CPUE in almost all of these longer time series. or in the monitoring data and the long time series from or competition data. So there seems to be indications of gray seal being involved in the pike decline. Of course, these are only correlation, nothing more than that. Several factors for sure contribute here. So everyone who's been out in the archipelago, the Swedish Baltic sea coast, know that we have lots of rocks, but for pike we also seem to have some really hard places. And currently, stickleback and gray seal seems to be the major ones. Thank you.